Greetings, it's the Timeshare Traveler. Today is episode 259. I can't believe it, 259. Timeshare strategy that I use is to start slow, but learn fast, and then expand. So, here's an overview of what I'm going to cover. Don't buy too much too fast. How and why I started. I'll tell you how I got into the sort of why I started buying timeshares. And then the next thing was, once I did that, I started saving early. I built a travel portfolio because I knew that when I retired, I'd need to be able to do it myself, even though I haven't technically retired. I'm sort of semi-retired. And then I expanded my ownership once I had learned the basic skills. And then last but not least, I've made several mistakes along the way. I think that's true with life in general. So timeshare purchase is no different than that. So let me jump right in on why I started in timeshares. How and why I started in timeshares. Well, I'd been going to Hawaii every year for 5+ years, more or less, and I kept seeing the prices going up. I kept trying to I would get lesser and lesser quality locations just because it would be less. I was trying to keep the budget under control, and then I also realized I'd have to fund vacation because I knew I loved to travel. When I retired, my family was growing. I was at two and soon to have three kids, and wanted more long-term economical way to visit Hawaii and yet stay at different places. And as a result, that kind of ruled out the idea of maybe, well, I'll just buy a condo and have one, once I pay it off, it'd be amazing. But I didn't want to just go to one place. And then because I've also picked Hawaii as my favorite spot, it's kind of ruined the whole idea of I only have so much money, so I guess I'm going to buy the timeshare versus the RV. And again, that's just my choice. I don't want to, I'm not knocking anybody who has an RV. I also wanted to reward myself with higher end resorts. That's really just something I was like, I worked really hard and I felt, and because I could afford it, I wanted to do that if I could. As opposed to what I had noticed as I started spending less and less. So my natural tendency is to save money. With timeshares, I've been very frugal with them and learned how to stretch points. Same concept. So what I bought now over 15 years ago, about 15 years ago, is I bought 1 week a year in Weston and one every other year Hilton, which was less than the normal 2 weeks that I would go to Hawaii. So I bought slightly below what I typically used. And then what I did for the next 7 years-ish was I figured out how to use them. I really put the effort into it. I used RCI exchanges and last call, and I was like, oh my God, I can get an extra, I actually ended up with extra weeks. And we use that often for more local vacations or last call. Even if I didn't use it all, it was so much cheaper than booking a hotel. If I only, did, 5 days instead of the 7 days. I did interval exchanges. I thought that was really interesting. That I really could get more. It was more than just what was in the timeshare that I could do. I got free upgrades at hotels because one of the things when I bought into the timeshares is all of a sudden I received status at the hotels. And I was traveling for work, so I would stay in hotels. And again, I visited different locations in Hawaii, enjoyed the luxury accommodations that are much higher than what I'd been paying, what I'd been staying at before. So this was a perk for both my family and myself, and I really, really enjoyed that. So now let me talk about the next phase I went through. Along with that 7-year period, I started saving early. I started building a travel portfolio so that I could basically reduce the costs once I retired, or in my case, semi-retired, to build a travel portfolio. Once I focused on saving for hotels and our airlines because those were the large costs of travel. And over the next 7 years, and I lived overseas for 2 of those years, so I was doing a lot of travel back and forth to the U.S. So I earned over 1 million frequent flyer points, and I used some of them to go to Hawaii, but I kept many of them, and I currently have over 2 million when you add it up across all the airlines that I have them. I have right at 2 million Hilton Honors points now. And I saved up those, and I didn't use them. So whenever I'd stay at a hotel for work or whatever, I would stay at one of the, if it wasn't that big a cost difference, I would stay at one of the ones that I had the timeshares in. And I earned over 1 million Marriott hotel points, now Bonvoy, to match my ownership, and I didn't use them. Um, and then I confirmed that I saved enough on the vacations to justify the cost of my timeshares. So I had a spreadsheet and I'd compare if I had gone on the same vacation and rented it as opposed to buying it, and then I'd calculate how much I had spent plus the maintenance fees every year. And in about 7 years, the maintenance fees plus the purchase price would have been equivalent to what I had if I had rented them based on going to like hotels.com and so forth. So I confirmed that timeshares worked for me within that first 7 years, figured out how to use it, and I've continued to learn. But that's kind of where I was. And then I'll talk about the next, which was expanding. And that's kind of the next phase was I expanded my ownership once I got a little closer to semi-retirement. I figured out what I wanted from my expansion based on actual experience using it. So it was a fairly long process. Nothing changed with regards to why. In fact, in 2021, I spent 7 months there. Not to brag, but that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to drive across the U.S. staying in timeshares because I knew that it was less money. And so, maybe I still had a lot of hotel points, so I could offset that. But so I added WorldMark to travel locally in California. They have a lot of, and up the West Coast and across the U.S. So that really worked for me. And they had enough where between the Wyndham hotels, I could drive across the country. And I did actually go to my 50th high school reunion, driving across the country, staying in timeshares. So it actually did do it. I used creative purchasing to buy resale in Hilton and convert them to developer, especially after the diamond purchase, because now I could drive across the country. So I expanded my Hilton because the ability to drive across the country. So it was all driven to what I wanted on my ownership. So whenever I talk about going to sales presentations, it's based on what I want, and I buy what's appropriate for what I want. I added enough Marriott for 2 to 3 weeks, depending on usage. Actually, I added enough just to guarantee that I was platinum for life, which meant free food in the hotels. I'm all about food, apparently. Anyway, and I continue to expand my knowledge. A lot of videos where I became a master at stretching points. Only buy enough points for priority vacations and elite privileges that matter to me. So I like a lot of the elite privileges that I have. In the WorldMark, I don't pay cleaning fees, so doesn't matter how many, if I say 2 days, 3 days, 1 day, I don't have to use a housekeeping token, as they call them. I love my Hilton. I get to rent almost a week for free every year because that I get the Lyft credits. So when I drop in, if I'm just doing a short trip, I'll just take a Lyft to the timeshare and it's free, or I should say it's part of my elite membership. So that's what I did expanding that. Now, just to make it clear that maybe in case I sound like I know exactly what I'm doing, I'll go through some of my biggest mistakes that I made in the process, because every learning process is filled with mistakes. That should be a learning opportunity for everyone. Okay, let me talk about mistakes I made along the way. I should have bought more resale just to lower my overall costs. I did manage to do quite a good job with regards to Hilton, but everybody else is pretty much developer credits. So that's a bit of an issue. That would have saved me more on upfront costs if I had figured out how to do more of that. Not exactly sure what I would have done. Maybe I would have got WorldMark, found somebody, or I could have bought all 65,000 on resale. That would have limited me in some ways, but I think I would have still had these no costs for cleaning tokens. Another issue is because if you buy more resale, if you happen to need to sell because you bought too much, then you don't really have much of a loss, if any. The second thing was I slowly got better at negotiating, and I didn't ask for enough perks initially. I could have asked for better and better bonuses, and the only reason I say that is by the time I was sort of wrapping up my most recent purchases, I'd gotten really good at asking for double bonuses and all kinds of things like that. Sometimes I got them, sometimes I didn't, but I would always push, or I would always buy a buyback deed instead of a regular deed. So I got much better at that. I could have done more marketing programs as part of my upgrade because they offer a lot of sales and a lot of opportunities to have mini vacations in the process of the upgrade, so you can use them as part of your buying. And the last one is I could have bought larger purchases, for example, larger deeds with less maintenance. I could have bought more points at a time because the price per point would have been lower. I sort of did smaller chunks, so those are things I could have done better. There's probably some other things I probably could have learned a little more sooner, but I don't want to beat myself up for those things. Anyway, hope you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my channel right now, and hope you enjoyed the video. Hi, this is Cliff, and I'm the Timeshare Traveler. Welcome to my channel. The purpose of my channel is to educate those who love traveling in timeshares. I've been an owner for 15 plus years at timeshare ownership. I have elite ownership with Marriott, Hilton, and Worldmark. I have published over 100 timeshare video reviews, and I've published over 95 timeshare tips. I can be found on Facebook at Timeshare Trav, at Twitter Timeshare Trav, and on the web at www.timesharetraveler.com.